I'm looking at the timeline, Brian Murphy. As you look at the other leagues and see the revenue gap, it becomes critical sooner rather than later on A.D. Cunningham at North Carolina and discussing what's going on with, of course, the ACC. And that's now check mark number 3 among the elite, you would think, in the ACC. Brian Murphy joins us from WRAL covering the ACC tournament. Brian, thanks for your time. When you heard those notes, was it just a matter of time before we heard from North Carolina?
Yeah, I think, Bubba Cunningham told me in October that they had a committee looking at unequal revenue distribution. So I wasn't surprised that other ADs have started talking about it. I guess I was a bit surprised that North Carolina has joined with, Clemson and Florida State and Miami sort of pushing for it.
Brian, do you think that this is going to be a long process of posturing before they get what they want? I mean, like this grant of rights is essentially forever. And apparently legally ironclad beyond the realm of even the top legal scholars in the profession. So how does this become anything other than schools complaining about not having much money?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the ACC is making more money than it's ever made before. And I think that number is only going to continue to rise, but it's not going to rise as fast as the SEC and the Big Ten. So you're going to hear from schools like Florida State and Clemson and probably North Carolina that, hey, we need a little more. I think one way it could get solved, and this is kind of speculation, but, the college football playoff is about to pump a lot more money into each conference. And you come up with a system where, teams sort of get to eat what they kill. If Clemson keeps going to the playoff, they get to keep a larger percentage of that revenue. If Florida State or North Carolina make it, they get to keep a larger percentage of that revenue. And if Wake Forest or Syracuse make it, they get to keep a larger percentage for themselves. I think there are some ways that they can allocate their revenue differently, but I mean, the larger problem is going to remain. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to be making more money than the ACC schools.
And didn't Bubba Cunningham kind of, reference that when he said it's about, the teams that put money and they value their sports and you can see that they invest in it. Those would be the schools that deserve to have a little bit more of a payoff, right? Just kind of a kick in the pants for those that are investing and trying to move their programs forward.
Right. That's how they see it. Now, North Carolina, obviously hasn't had as much success in football, but they sponsor more sports than just about, any team outside of the Pac-12. So they say, hey, we're investing. We're giving out lots and lots of scholarships. We're winning titles in many non-football, non-basketball sports. And, and then Clemson and Florida State are saying, hey, we're investing in football, so we need a little bit more. I mean, I think at the end, nobody's going to be happy, right? If you do unequal revenue distribution, it's not enough to get Florida State and Clemson to where they want to be. And then you're telling 6 or 7 schools in the league, hey, you got to take a little less. And they're not going to be happy. So I don't think anybody's going to be satisfied until the revenue number climbs.
Well, okay, we've heard Florida State. We've heard now North Carolina. We've heard Clemson. I think you mentioned Miami in the original answer. Who else would be missing from deserving, in your opinion, or they think, unequal revenue sharing?
Well, I've talked to a lot of TV people, and those are the 4 schools that probably are worth more than the ACC contracts worth. I've heard, Virginia Tech and NC State are probably worth exactly what they're getting, and then all the other schools, are probably worth less. And so I think you're going to hear most of the complaints from those 4 schools, Miami, North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, as schools that say, hey, we're worth more than we're getting, and so we should get a larger percentage of the deal. I mean, those not coincidentally, those are the 4 schools that would probably have options if something were to happen to the ACC.
Do you think that that there is any way that the other schools would even go for any of this?
I think to appease some of those schools that they may. I mean, I think, but I think as I laid out, it may be from new money. Maybe keep the old money distributed the same way, but some new money that you get, maybe that gets slightly altered. Maybe ESPN finds a way to, work on some sponsorship agreements where, the Clemsons and the Florida States of the world get a little bit more than Syracuse's and Wake Forest and Boston Colleges. I think there probably are